guys, and welcome back to the Crawl Room. We're here once again in this wonderful ranting room for all things Formula One, and we have a fight on our hands, guys, don't we? We have a fight on our hands for this championship, and I cannot wait. We've only got 22 more races than this. I don't know if my heart can take it. Fantastic drive by Hamilton to get the win, basically. He got that win. He earned that win, let's be honest. The Mercedes team did all they could in terms of strategy, but Hamilton had to drive that car to get the win. So fair play to Lewis Hamilton there. Well done to him. And Maxi boy Verstappen tried his best, didn't he? Bless him. He tried to make a move around the outside at turn 4. It came off, but he went over the track limits and was instructed to let the position back. All's fair in love and war, and that was a place where you could gain an advantage. Lewis Hamilton received a black and white flag earlier in the race for disobeying that track limits at turn 4. If you can't go wide anyway, then you certainly can't go wide to overtake a car. So definitely was wise to let the car back, but I think he let him through in the wrong place. I think he should have done it maybe at the last corner at turn 13, turn 14, around that area, so then he was on the back of him to get DRS to attack him down the straight again. But instead he let him pass after turn 9, where Hamilton already had DRS on him, and that caused a little bit of friction there, didn't it? It sort of got him out of the DRS zone and caused a little bit of chaos. But anyway, we're going to go into that. I'm already talking about the race, and we're not even talking about how we're going to do the series. So if you've never seen this series before, I score the drivers out of a maximum of 10 points, although I give bonus points if you do extra well. And what I do is, if you do particularly badly, I score all the way down to 0. But... and there's a but, I can award minus points if you do particularly badly. And there's a returning person to this series that was only seen in a silhouette form, shall we say, last season. So you're going to look forward to that, I'm sure. So the race winner, Lewis Hamilton, unbelievable stuff. He dominated that. He just did the best job he could, didn't he? He just did the best job he could. He didn't dominate. He just did the best job he could for the car he had, and it pulled off. He managed to eke those hard tyres out that were 10 laps older than Max's, that little bit more, and he did an incredible job. Mercedes don't have the fastest car. We saw that in qualifying. Verstappen on pole by 4/10. So yeah, he did the best job he could, and he did exceptionally well. So well done to Lewis Hamilton. It's going to be short and sweet for Lewis. It's going to be a full 10 points to him. Well done. Superb driving. Fully deserved the win. I know I've seen some bitterness already and whinging about, well, Lewis was doing track limits anyway, and then Max made track limits, and that's not okay. Stop being stupid. Please stop being stupid. You know I don't like Hamilton. Everyone knows I don't like Hamilton. But what are you supposed to do? Hamilton was disobeying track limits. He got a black and white flag. He didn't do it anymore. But he wasn't overtaking a car off the track, was he? He was gaining an advantage by going off the track. He was warned for it. He stopped doing it. Max came along, went round the outside, and went round the outside of turn 4, off of track limits. You can't gain an advantage by overtaking. And if Hamilton had done it, he'd have been in the same boat. So I don't understand. People just really need an excuse to hate Hamilton at times, don't they? But there you go. So full 10 points to Lewis Hamilton. He didn't do anything wrong, and he drove that Mercedes to the victory. Mercedes put the car in the best possible position, but he had to drive it up there. So well done to Lewis Hamilton. And then, as mentioned, we come to Max Verstappen, the pole sitter by 4/10. An incredible qualifying lap, and we just knew we were going to have a battle, didn't we? I didn't think it were going to go Mercedes' way this weekend, to be honest. I thought, oh, maybe they're on the back foot here, but they'll learn and adapt the car for next round and we'll have a closer fight. But we sure did have a good fight, didn't we? Red Bull's first strategy stint really put them on the back foot. They were kind of in no man's land when they pitted. They didn't eke it out long enough to knock a stop off, but they didn't go far enough to really have an impact on Mercedes' strategy. So just a little bit bizarre. Max did all he could, but like I said and mentioned, he drove around the outside at turn 4. Little bit of desperation perhaps, and then let him go in the wrong place. He let him go really in the wrong place. I think turn 14 area would have been best. Get behind him, get into the DRS, and then take him at turn 1 or maybe at turn 3 again. But instead he let him go after turn 9, turn 10. I can't remember what they're called. They make corners up these days, but turn 9 or turn 10 anyway. And Hamilton had already got DRS on him, and then he lifted off the throttle, so he pulled him behind and was out of DRS for a couple of laps, which was crucial. So for that reason, and that reason alone, Max Verstappen is going to get 9 points on the board. Might seem incredibly harsh, but we've got a long season to go. I'm not taking anything away from Max's drive. He delivered all he could, but just that little mistake there of letting him back through in the wrong place cost him victory, I think. Because had he had the DRS for the long straight again and was really close behind him, he could have overtaken him and could have overtaken him fairly, but it just put him on that back foot for the couple of laps that he wasn't in the DRS, and that was costly. So, yeah, Max, fantastic drive. I'm not taking anything away by the 9 points scored. I just felt that Hamilton really put you under pressure, and he just delivered, didn't he? He just delivered something that little bit extra special, did Hamilton. So yeah, 9 points to Max Verstappen. And then we come to Valtteri Bottas, no man's land. He was 16 seconds away from the leaders and 10 seconds or 12 seconds ahead of Norris or whoever it was, whatever time it was, I should say. And yeah, Bottas, he had a bad pit stop, 10.9 seconds, so 11 seconds. Pit stop where it should take 2, so lost 10 seconds there effectively. But other than that, he wasn't on the pace anyway. He wasn't doing anything special. He didn't do anything to match Verstappen. He got overtaken by Leclerc at the start briefly, and I just thought it was all just a bit meh once again from Bottas. So for that reason, it's the middle of the road, 5 points. The only reason it's not any less is because of that pit stop error by Mercedes, which definitely wiped out his chances of victory. So had they had a perfect pit stop and he was still third and still shit, I'd have given him less points. So Mercedes, you let Bottas off the hook, because I was going to go into a rant about him, but I thought, no, I need to be fair, first race of the season. So I'm going to let Bottas off the hook. It's the middle of the road, 5 points. It was nothing special, but the strategy and the long pit stop cost you as well. So that's the end of that for him. And then we come to Lando Norris. We didn't see much of him in the race, did we? We didn't see much of him at all. That's because he was a lonely P4 and doing incredibly well. Great stuff by Lando, you know, he just drove his own, he qualified well as well, and fair play to him. Fair play for P4, fantastic points for McLaren, and fantastic points for him. I think he did incredibly well. He benefited from the misfortunes of such as Gasly, who had a poor start, then knocked his wing off. I think he could have been challenging. And of course, Perez having the problem where he had to start from the pit lane. I think had he started in P11, Perez, we could have seen him on the podium today easily. So, yeah, he benefited in a couple of situations, and that is not to take away from Lando Norris whatsoever. So a fantastic drive by Lando. He's also going to get 10 points. He's not really cruel at the moment, is it? But I think you know we're going to get there. I just think you've got an inkling that we're going to get there. So keep watching. We'll get there, don't you worry. And then, as mentioned, just behind Lando Norris, so 6 seconds or so behind in the end, is Sergio Perez. Having qualified 11th, not great, not great. He had a lap time deleted in qualifying, which wasn't ideal. Put him on the back foot. They sent him out on tyres again. And he just didn't make it through, did he? So unfortunate, and we were thinking, oh God, the curse of the second car again, and oh no. And then he had the problems at the start where he cut out on the formation lap and managed to reset it to drive into the pit lane. Did a pit lane start, so that's worse than starting last, and crawled his way all the way up to P5. So that proves how much pace the Red Bulls got, because the mid-pack is so close, but yet he was just carving like a hot knife through butter. Well done. So Sergio Perez, it's a full 10 points to him as well. Wasn't an impressive qualifying, but he'll learn from that mistake. He'll learn from that. It's a new team, it's a new season, it's a new car. He'll learn from that error of his ways right there and then, and he already delivered in the race. But we've already known with Perez that he's normally a Sunday driver, isn't he? He's not Mr. Saturday like Russell. He's a Sunday driver, and he gets the job done when the points count. So well done to Perez. Maximum he could have done. 10 points. Well deserved. And then it's time for Sha-la-la. And what can we say? A cracking qualifying by him. P4 in qualifying. Unbelievable stuff. I didn't expect Ferrari to be that high up. They're on the soft compounds starting the race due to Q2, but that's what they had to do. I think they've got enough pace maybe in that car to maybe risk mediums in the Q2 session to get through into Q3. In later races now, they've proven that they can do it, and they've got some good pace in that car. So, going to be interesting to see. Leclerc, however, finishing P6, I don't think is a detriment to the team at all. I think they've come on leaps and bounds. And yeah, lost out on a couple of positions, but realistically we expected that, didn't we? You know, I think we were all tipping that the McLaren-Mercedes partnership was going to be the third fastest team. We saw that with Lando inevitably finishing in 4th position. And of course, Sergio Perez carving his way through. So I don't think he finished behind anyone that he shouldn't have finished behind. And well done to him. So P6, a strong start. It's going to be 9 points to Charles Leclerc for that one. I'm really, really impressed with Ferrari. I didn't expect them to be this good out of the blocks. They're not fantastic, but they're certainly a lot better. And that takes a lot of effort to improve the amount that they have compared to last year. So well done Ferrari, and 9 points to Sha-la-la. And then it's time for Daniel Ricciardo. Some say he had a disappointing race and a poor race. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on this one occasion. New team, new partnership, new car, learning all the time. We know that Ricciardo's strength is under braking, so he has to learn that brake pedal to do the late dives and the late runs once again. And finishing P7 in a new car, in a new team, I think's respectable. He'll be a bit disappointed that he finished behind Leclerc. I think he should have finished ahead of him. And of course, it's a bit disappointed that he finished behind Lando. But overall, a strong, good weekend, good points on the board with a new team once again. And it's going to be 8 points, if I can count. 8 points to Daniel Ricciardo. I think it was a good race. I might be being a little bit generous to Ricciardo, but I think 8 points is a solid effort. And I think it proves that he's coming on, he's getting there, he's progressing. And overall, yeah, not a bad race. It wasn't anything spectacular, but nonetheless a good race. So that's why he gets 8 for now. So well done to Ricardo. And then we come to Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, another new driver with another new team. Solid points on the board again, finishing a couple of places behind his teammate. It's pretty much a mirror image to what Ricardo did. So overall, really, really impressive. The only reason why I'm going to dock Sainz 1 point compared to Ricardo and award him 7 instead of 8 was because he finished behind his teammate in qualifying, whereas Ricardo just nudged him, just nudged ahead of Lando, didn't he? So I think that point sways it a little bit there. But yeah, again, a strong weekend for Sainz in a new team, and Ferrari is a really unusual partnership, having to learn Italian and Christ knows what else you've got to do with Ferrari. But it's a completely different kettle of fish to every other team, as previous drivers have explained and talked about in many, many situations. But I think 8th place overall for Carlos Sainz in his first race with Ferrari is a fantastic drive. Double points finish for Ferrari. Well done to him. So he's going to get 7 points. And then it's my man, Yuki Tsunoda. I told you he'd do well. I told you he'd do well. Okay, so he had an unfortunate incident in Q2 where he just didn't get his lap together on the medium tyres in comparison to his teammate and ultimately finished in P13. That was unfortunate. That was just a rookie error under pressure in qualifying and didn't make it through into Q3. A shame. But he made the best of it, didn't he? He was on a compromised strategy compared to everyone else because he wasn't the first to blink and go into the pits. So it put him down back to around P13 when he was battling around the 11th, 10th area. So he lost out a couple of positions, but then just carved his way through ultimately and got into P9 and picked up 2 points on his debut for AlphaTauri. And it looked like their weekend were going to go all to cock, didn't it? With Gasly knocking his front wing off and being down at the back of the grid. That was really, really unfortunate. But Tsunoda has salvaged a couple of points. I said he was going to do well, didn't I? And I'm proving it. I'm so glad I'm right. I'm so glad I'm right, especially when it's such a lovely young lad in the hands of Tsunoda. So well done to him. Impressive drive, and you deserve a full 9 points on the board. I'm going to give you 9, just a little bit conservative on that one, but nonetheless, an impressive performance. So well done, Yuki. Then we come to Lan Stroll, rounding out the final points petting position for Aston Martin Racing Point, whatever you want to call it. And what should we say for Lan Stroll? Well, overall, he started 10th, he finished 10th. I think that was the pace of the car. It looked like he was going to get up to around 7th, 8th in some places, but then ultimately slipped back. He had a little bit of contact with Alonso, didn't he? Or it was certainly one of the Alpines. It might have been Ocon, but either way, he had a bit of a rub and a tickle with one of those. Not his fault, just an inside move by the Alpine. So maybe damaged his car a little bit there, the barge board, the floor area, etc. But overall, not a bad race, not impressive either, just a meh weekend. Is that a meh pace for Aston Martin? I think it is. And I'm going to score him 6 points, just above half. I'm being a little bit generous there. I was going to award him 5, but yeah, we don't know the true pace of that Aston Martin yet. I think that is the pace, to be honest with you, but we'll get another couple of rounds, see if he improves or doesn't, and we'll see where we are. But yeah, disappointing race by Aston Martin, considering the one at the alternate circuit towards the end of the season last year. So how the mighty have fallen. And then we come to just outside the points finishes. I'm going to do these two drivers together because I think they had a pretty impressive race, the pair of them. It's Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi, the Italian stallion. They finished P11 and P12 respectively. A solid drive by Alfa Romeo. They've improved quite a bit by the looks of things. Qualifying was impressive as well. Antonio finishing in P12 and of course Raikkonen in P14 to bring home 11th and 12th on the road. Just outside the points. Unbelievable. I think that's a real good representative of how a team can suddenly improve. You know, they weren't making it into Q2 very often last year, and here we are, first race of the new season, both cars into Q2. Antonio was, of course, ahead of Raikkonen leading into the pit stops, but an unfortunate 10-second pit stop for Antonio put him back behind his teammate, and it looked like Raikkonen could have got a point or two at one stage, but ultimately just slipped back as Perez and Tsunoda came back through the field, which is understandable, there were better cars, and Giovinazzi was running around in P14 and then benefited from the contact that Vettel and Ocon made to swoop back through into P12. So ultimately, a solid weekend by the pair of them. It's going to be 7 points each. 7 points each. Might be a little bit conservative on that, but again, I want to see how they get on throughout the year, and I think 7 is fair for the pair of them because overall, it was a good race, wasn't it? I mean, I'd imagine if Raikkonen had been in the points, I'd have been shouting and screaming and giving him 15 points or whatever daft. But, you know, I think we need to remain realistic. 7 points each, I think, is a good representative of what they did this weekend. So, well done to the pair of them. And then we come to Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. And overall, a poor weekend by them, wasn't it? And a very, very poor weekend by Ocon. Unfortunately for Esteban, he made a mistake on his first run in qualifying. And then the second run he did, he ended up with Mazzyspin spinning in front of him. So, yeah, unfortunate there, and he just missed out, and it was down in P17 and out in Q1. And then from there, he didn't make any progress at all, did he? Ultimately finish in P13. Would have been P12 had it not been for Sebastian arse-ending him and ramming him up the arse, but there you go, that's racing, and he wasn't going to get points anyway. So for Esteban Ocon, it's just 4 points at the minute. Bit disappointing, especially considering what Alonso was doing earlier in the race as well. Overall, not a great race by Alpine or Ocon. So yeah, just 4 points to Esteban Ocon. And then we come to George Russell, and I think a good weekend by him. It looked like he'd slipped away at the start. He'd gone his usual route of getting into Q2, getting P15, then slipping back. But yeah, overall finishing in P14. Not a bad race by him. A couple of cars had issues. But yeah, overall not a bad race. I think I'm a bit disappointed where Williams are where I expected them to be, especially in terms of race pace. I were expecting the pair of them to be a little bit more up there, potentially where Alfa Romeo are, to be honest with you. Just behind them, perhaps, but around that area. So to see them a little bit further back than that was disappointing. But nonetheless, I think, you know, Russell did a solid enough job, and for that reason, it's 7 points to George. Overall, a good race by him in the car he's got. Again, another couple of weekends, see if that car gets better or worse, and get a fair assessment of where his car is, so I can give him a true representative of points for the vehicle he's in. But I think 7 points overall is a good way to start a season. On the crawl room, of course, so well done to him. Next up is Sebastian Vettel, of course, and it is again, you spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, right round, round, round.
Pam of the week, you bastards.
There it is, it was Palmer for Palmer of the week. We've got him back once again. That means I don't need to really talk about his race in any positive fashion because he did award Palmer, so that means he's going to get absolutely nil points for this race weekend's performance. Let's have a talk about it, shall we? Double wave yellows disobeying in qualifying 1 on a lap he didn't get through into Q2 with anyway, and then rammed and arse-ended Esteban Ocon. Oh dear. Oh dear. Told you it was a washout and a down and out. And there you go. Jolyon Palmer has awarded him Palmer of the Week. And now it's time for Mick Schumacher. And we couldn't really see what he was capable of, really, could we? He's in the Haas anyway, as we know. And we didn't see how far ahead he could have finished ahead of Mazzyspin because Mazzyspin went off and shunted, didn't he? So, Unfortunate that we didn't have that to be able to compare him to, but overall not a bad race. I saw he was ahead of a couple of cars and thought, oh, that's quite decent. I've realised they must have run into trouble that wasn't commentated on. Unfortunately, I think Sky coverage was absolutely diabolical today. We were sort of chopping and changing and bitting and batting on the screens at the side to watch a battle, you know. We know we've got 2 DRS zones in 1 and in 3. You know, coming out the last corner you get DRS and then into turn 3 you get DRS again. But they weren't showing that and you were like, well, we're missing out on most of the racing. They were sort of chopping and changing. We didn't see pit strategies from anyone in the midfield because they weren't focusing on them. And I know it was an exciting battle up front, but nonetheless, I think it was just a bit choppy, changey, meh kind of situation. But yeah, as for Schumacher, of course, Mick, he had a spin in the early stages after the safety car period. A spin very much reminiscent of his teammate, actually, and nearly put him into the wall himself. But looking to keep going, and overall didn't do a bad job, really. So it's going to be 6 points for Mick. Again, I need to see what his teammate does to be able to see the pace overall and how much better he is than his teammate. So a cautious start for his cruel room career. And yeah, 6 points on the board to Mick. I think he's as good a score as I can give for now, anyway. Let's put it that way. And then we come to Pierre Gasly. Oh no, 0 to 0, P5 in qualifying. I thought, here we go, some big points for AlphaTauri and some big points for Pierre Gasly on this cruel room. And it all went wrong. He just caught his front wing on the back of Ricardo's car. Wasn't Ricardo's fault. He just made the move. And then as he was coming across, he just caught him. And that was it. Front wing off. Down at the back of the grid, made 3 pit stops, and I think ultimately pulled into the pits at the end, to be fair, because he ended up 4 laps down, which we didn't see anything of. So overall, it's just going to be 3 points for Gasly this weekend, and that's solely based on his qualifying performance, because the race wasn't up to much, was it? Just unfortunate. It was a mistake, And yeah, there you go. 3 points to Pierre Gasly. And another one that I didn't really see much of or know anything about is Nicholas Latifi. He ended up 5 laps down, so he must have pulled into the pits and retired as well. Again, we didn't hear anything from the Sky commentators on this, so well done them. I know there was a battle ahead, but nonetheless, we should really know a retirement, shouldn't we, and what's going on with other people's cars and drivers' cars. I did notice that he did slip back behind Mick Schumacher at one stage, did Latifi, so potentially mechanical issues there. I'm not saying that it wasn't his overall crapness, I just don't know, to be honest. So it's going to be 5 points to Nick Latifi, because I am going to class him as a retirement, and I can only award him 5 points when it is one of those, especially when I don't know what happened. So yeah, there you go. 5 points to Nicholas Latifi. Didn't see much of him. He was behind his teammate by a few seconds and then gradually slipped away, but again, I don't know if he was nursing an issue or what, so a shame for Nick there, but 5 points on the board to him. And then we come to the first of the retirements on this list, which means it was the last retirement in the race. Officially out, these drivers, and it was Fernando Alonso. And what could be said about him? I think a better race than I was expecting from him. A better qualifying. He qualified P9. I think that was absolutely sublime, considering Ocon was out in Q1. And in the race, it looked like he was going to be in the sort of 7th to 10th area, and then ultimately started slipping back. I understand it was something that was stuck in the rear brake ducts, some debris of some description, which ultimately led to a brake failure, and he had to nurse it back into the pits and retire. He did start tumbling down the order, though, didn't he, prior to making that pit stop to retire, so maybe he was nursing brakes. So I don't know the full story at the time of recording, but I'm going to give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt of that. But at the same time, I'm, on the fence with it, really. So for that reason, I'm going to award Fernando Alonso a solid 7 points. I think he deserves that, based on his performance that I saw up to the definite retirement. And I think it were brakes that were holding him back. If I am confirmed that it were brakes, as a reason of he had to manage him as to why he was slipping back later in the race before he ultimately retired, then yeah, I think I probably would have given him an extra point. But nonetheless, 7 points I think is fair. A good start against the Cruel Room Championship, and did a lot better than I expected him to. So congratulations for that, Alonso. And yeah, fully deserving of 7 points. And then we come to the final driver on the grid. It's Nikita Mazzyspin. Yeah, I didn't really know what to do. So I've scored him 0, because we all know what he's like anyway. But I decided to write a little poem, so to speak, or a little song. I was going to put a jingle to it, but I just can't. I'm not a musician and I can't be bothered. So I'm going to do a little song for you here for Nikita Mazzyspin. I hope you'll enjoy it. Oh, Nikita Mazzyspin, where do we begin? He can't drive cars fast, so he rams others up the arse. He forces them off the track, 'cause he's a bit of a twat. But it's okay, you see, he's rich beyond dreams. He can do what he wants without repercussions. Oh, Nikita, it's true, we do not love you, so please leave the grid. We need to get rid of the dead wood that's in the red, white and blue. So goodbye, farewell, there's no more to be said. The message is clear, we don't want you here. Oh, Nikita. There you go. I said there was something special for Mazzyspin, and that is it. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. And that rounds off the Cruel Wall, and the scores are on the board now. So there you go, a massive, massive thank you to Mushy Gaming, Dan at Mushy Gaming. His link will be in the description below for awarding these scores. It's early days yet, of course, but this table will be updated in due course with every following weekend, and we'll get more and more spicy fighting action on the Cruel Room series for the top and the coveted Cruel Room Championship crown. I'd also like to say a massive thank you for Dan Mushy Gaming for making the intro to this video as well, and a massive, massive thank you to F1 Games PlayStation Dave for making the Palmer of the Week signal and sound, the klaxons, as we like to call them. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you so much for the support with 500 subscribers on this channel, and I can't wait for more exciting, spicy, hot Formula 1 action, and for me to have a good old shout about them in this Cruel Room. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and much love.